here's something that a lot of Americans are going to have a hard time accepting and understanding. Donald Trump has destroyed America. America is over, at least as we remember and understand it. The United States as a country will continue to exist, but it'll be different. All of us have grown up in a world where America was the dominant global superpower. We were the leading light of democratic nations. Our president was the leader of the free world. Our currency was a global reserve currency. And this doesn't really come from any sort of formal designation. I mean, we're very rich and powerful, but it came from a general belief that we were the leading country. And that's gone now. It's been destroyed. It took Donald Trump less than 100 days to destroy it. The coalition of nations that formed around us because we were a powerful democracy and treat us as their leader, they're breaking away. Even Canada has broken away from us. Europe has broken away from us. We appear to be most friendly with dictatorships like Russia. They're small and weak and poor. It's ironic given how people treated Biden's presidency as unendurable, but I think we'll look back to it as the last moment that America was the America we grew up in. Nobody trusts us now. They look at us as unstable, as potentially corrupt, as unwilling to follow the rules that govern ourselves, much less everyone else. They look at us as dangerous. We could turn on them, impose tariffs. We could even attack them militarily, even our allies. We could try to annex their territories. No one has any reason to think of us as anything but a potential threat. America derived a lot of its authority from its reputation as the world's intellectual center, the center of all of the leading universities, the companies where people did research, where people changed the world. But Donald Trump is destroying those universities. He's destroying our medical research, our scientific research, our technical research. Those people are leaving the country. They're going somewhere else. And so the world's going to leave us behind. Why wouldn't they? We're a nation where our leader just yammers on and on about how America is going to bully everyone into line, but they don't want to work with us. They want to leave us to rot and look after themselves. As an American, it's incredibly depressing because it all happened for nothing. It's because Donald Trump is motivated by nothing but grievance and stupidity. No larger policy objectives was served. This is all about, I guess, punishing trans people and hurting immigrants for no reason other than to see them get hurt. And for that, we've destroyed a country that was a leader among nations in so many ways. We could have led the world, and we did for a long time, but Donald Trump has proven that we can't and we don't deserve to. And each and every one of us is going to pay the price for that eventually.
All right, so look, the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Think about that for a second. For decades, this country has sold itself as the greatest nation on earth, the land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the model that the rest of the world should follow, that the rest of the world should look up to. That story worked for a while. It was powerful enough to cover up the cracks. But the cracks are just too big now, and people aren't buying it anymore. Not the world outside of America, or the people who live inside of America. Nobody believes the story that America is telling anymore. Nobody is buying it. Let's start with how it looks on the outside. Other nations pay attention to what America does, not just what it says. And what they see is contradiction.
When Donald Trump says the only thing stopping him from doing whatever he wants in the international community is his own mind, he's really not that wrong.
Now, I've been asking myself, what is it with this energy with Americans coming out to consistently and continuously denounce their own government and call out their own, president, and they're just simply having, a meltdown? Is it some kind of, an opposition, or what is it exactly with Americans with so much energy denouncing their own government? And if you observe keenly, you'll notice something, that this is not coming from just the opposition side of this government. It's not even coming from the media. It's coming from Americans in general. Americans themselves. More and more people are openly, saying they're done with Donald Trump and his government, and they're not doing it quietly. They're not doing it subtly anymore. They're just loud enough. And so the question is, what exactly is pushing people to this point, And well, before I say anything, let's continue to listen to Americans and their reasons, and we'll be back with some more good analysis.
The America that we had is done. It's over. The idea of America is still alive and never really came to its full potential. But the America we knew is over. Trump has done so much damage to America that it'll be felt for generations to come, even if we were to get him out of office right now. The attacks in Iran have just solidified that we will no longer be the world superpower. I want to be very clear, though. I love America. I'm a veteran. I absolutely love America. I don't like our administration. I don't like Trump. I'm not even a fan of the government, but I like the people, because that's what America is. It's the people of America. This war is not going to end well. Regardless of how it ends, it's not going to end well. The best we can hope for is that we get Trump out. And even then, we still have all our work ahead of us. The Constitution's a great start, but it did not prevent somebody like Trump coming in and ruining 200 plus years of a country. I mean, it took him a little over a year to totally screw over America for the next 30 years. So if we go to rebuild, if we can rebuild, what does that look like? How do we rebuild? And I've thrown some ideas out there in the past, but I want to add a few more. We cannot ever allow one person to have this much power ever again. Ever. They weren't supposed to have this much power in the first place. But due to the lack of spine in Republicans in the Congress and the Senate, they've allowed Trump to have this power.
America talks about democracy, but history has shown that it has interfered with elections and overthrown governments all over the globe. America talks about peace, but it's been at war almost nonstop for generations. America talks about freedom, yet its foundation is built on stolen land, on exploitation, on slavery. And the people who live outside of the U.S. can see this clearly, and they're tired of pretending that they don't. Now, in the last decade, this global projection of America has sped up. America has pulled out of global agreements, insulted its allies, and started pushing the America First message. Now, I know at home in America, this sounded bold and noble, but to the rest of the world, it looked selfish. It looked reckless, unstable. It said America doesn't want a partnership. It just wants control. And what did other nations do? They started making their own trade deals. They built new alliances that didn't include the U.S. Some even started making plans to move away from the dollar. And that is how empires decline. Not all at once, but step by step as the trust erodes. And then came the United Nations meeting the other day. This was literally the biggest stage in the world. Every nation, every leader, every camera is watching. And what did America do? America's so-called leader stood up and called climate change the greatest con job ever. That man stood up there and he mocked global cooperation. He stumbled through the speech like it didn't even matter, like he didn't even care. And then the real icing on the cake, while he's standing on the global stage with all these cameras and all these countries and all these leaders watching, this man tells all these countries that they're going to hell. Just sit with that for a moment. Think about that. The so-called leader of the free world, standing in front of the entire planet, telling every nation in the world that they're going to hell. And what was the response? The world laughed. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They laughed out loud. That moment right there was the mask slipping in real time. On the biggest stage there is, the United States wasn't seen as a leader. It wasn't respected as powerful. It was laughed at. And that laughter is the cherry on top of everything I've been saying. Because when the world laughs at you, they're not taking you seriously anymore. You're done. You're cooked. Now, while The world outside of America is losing faith in America. The people who live in America are also losing faith in America. Look at the daily life we have here. The wages that we make have been stuck for decades, yet the rent and everything else is getting more expensive every second, every minute. Like right now, you can literally walk into a store with half a cart of groceries and pay more than what you used to for a full cart worth of groceries. Like you spend more money on this half cart of groceries right now than you would have on a full cart of groceries not too long ago. Like you're working harder and harder, but your money stretches less and less each year. Does that feel like greatness, or does that feel like survival? Healthcare is the same story. Healthcare in America costs more than anywhere in the world. Millions of American citizens can't even afford to go to the doctor. We have people rationing medicine, families drowning in medical debt. Some folks won't even stop at the hospital because they know that a hospital trip could potentially bankrupt them. That doesn't look like freedom. That looks like failure. Homelessness. Homelessness is at the highest record that it's ever been, at the highest level that it's ever been. And it's not just cities anymore. You see tents under bridges in small towns. You see families sleeping in cars. You see people stuck in motel rooms because they have nowhere else to go. You have entire communities being priced out of existence because the wages are flat. And that is not the mark of a healthy nation. That's the sign of a system collapsing. And here's the kicker. Life expectancy here is lower than in countries that have less money. Like, we spend more on healthcare than anyone, but we live shorter lives. That alone should tell you that something is very, very wrong. And the world sees all of this. They see the mass shootings every week while America lectures about safety. They see overflowing prisons while leaders brag about freedom. They see billion-dollar disasters hitting every year while politicians argue whether climate change is real or not. They see billionaires getting richer and richer every day while the average everyday citizen has to work 2 or 3 jobs just to barely get by, like just pay the rent and to have something to eat. So from the outside, America doesn't look like a leader. It looks like a country in decline, and Americans feel it too. Trust in the government, in the media, in corporations is at a rock bottom. Patriotism is fading. Most people say that the country is on the wrong track, and you don't need polls to see it. Just look around. Talk to your family. Talk to your coworkers. Nobody feels like this system has their back. And here's the core truth. The myth of America only works if people believe in it. But the world doesn't believe it anymore. And more people living here don't either. And more people who are living here don't either. So who still clings to this story? The ones who benefit from it, the politicians, the corporations, the elites. They need the lie to live because their power depends on it. But the cracks are just too wide to ignore now. That's why America right now doesn't look powerful. It looks desperate. It doesn't look like a leader. It looks like an empire past its prime, holding on to old slogans while the world moves on without it. So the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Not done with the people, not done with the land, but done with the lie, done with a system that demands loyalty and gives nothing back, done with a story that doesn't match reality anymore. And here's the thing about lies. Once people see through them, they never work that same way again. So I'll end it with this. When you look at your own life as an American, does this feel like the greatest nation on earth? Or does it feel like survival?
The U.S. is the last remaining superpower. This matters. What gives them this status? Their military, their economy, and let's be perfectly honest, their cultural domination. They don't send their army, they just send McDonald's, for crying out loud. Now your question should be, what could possibly hold back the United States in the international system from doing anything they deemed appropriate? The answer so far hasn't been much. We can talk about their constitution. A lot of people talk about their constitution as it applies to the international system. It doesn't. The United States Constitution and every country's constitution applies to its citizenry. What the United States government does in foreign international relations has nothing to do with their constitution. Can they impeach them for things? Sure. Have they? Absolutely. Has any president been kicked out for the horrible things they've done internationally? No. The only constitutional control Congress has is over the purse strings, the money. So if the president declares war or takes military action, after 6 months, Congress has to vote to pay for it. But once they're in it, once they're at war, nobody, including the guys on the other side of that fence or the other side of the aisle, wants to see the United States lose. So it's an awful lot of power to give to the president. This has always been true. We're just now talking about it. What about the United Nations? Everybody talks about the United Nations and its control on the international community. Why isn't the United Nations doing anything to stop the United States? This is a subclass, so you're going to have to mind map your way off the page. I'm going to talk about the UN for a second. The UN has 5 key structures. They have the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Permanent Security Council, ECOSOC, and the ICJ. This is a real crash course, so try to keep up. To understand the United Nations, you have to understand when it was created, 1945. In order to get people to join, states to join the United Nations, they had to assure that each state would have sovereignty, and they had to make very special promises to some of the bigger countries. General Assembly, 194 countries-ish, all have a seat, all have a vote. In order to pass something in the General Assembly, you need a simple majority. Then it goes to the Security Council. The Security Council is made up of 15 members, 10 of which are elected for a 2-year rotational term. If it goes to the Security Council, it's going to be voted on. 60% of the Security Council actually needs to pass it for it to make it to the next level. Here's where it gets messy and everybody gets frustrated, but it's essential. Once past the Security Council, it goes to the Permanent Security Council. 5 superpowers at the end of World War II each got a permanent seat on the Security Council, and each of those countries has a veto, so can veto any UN action. Those 5 members are the United States, China, at the time the Soviet Union, now Russia, France, and Britain. Some people might ask, why do they get so much power? I'll tell you why. Because if they weren't granted more power of their status, they wouldn't have joined the UN. They don't join the UN. We don't create an international body to hopefully reduce tensions and have more diplomacy. Now let me be crystal clear. It's because of the Permanent Security Council that the UN has been militarily stagnant, even though the United Nations isn't supposed to be a military force. It has been stagnant because every major conflict that goes on in the world today is a result of one of those 5 countries benefiting from, training, and supplying weapons to the countries actually at war. Technically, the only time that the Permanent Security Council ever voted to do anything militarily was when China was kicked out because of the transfer of power to Mao, and the Soviets were boycotting the kicking out of China, and there was only 3 members left, so they all went into Korea. The reason it's not supposed to be military is because it's supposed to be a center for peace, for discussion, for debate, for diplomacy, and that's where ECOSOC comes in, the Economic and Social Council. This has accomplished incredible things since 1945. Literacy rates all over the world, medical care all over the world, women's rights all over the world, economic development all over the world. That is ECOSOC, and they've been able to do that because they don't have a strong military presence. And finally, the International Court of Justice. Okay, so the International Court of Justice is comprised of 9 countries elected for a 6-year term. They sit on this council, they sit on this bench, and they decide what international law should be. Now here's the cast of the ICJ and the international system as a whole. The only countries that go to the ICJ to be judged choose to go to the ICJ. And the only countries that abide by the International Court of Justice decisions are those countries that have to, due to their military and economic position. Superpowers have never listened to the ICJ and will never listen to the ICJ because nobody's making them. The UN isn't a supranational authority. It wouldn't make sense for democracy if it was, right? Because we elect governments, our governments make decisions for our country. If the United Nations was allowed authority over our countries, it waters down and diminishes our democracy within our own country. But what that does establish is no consistent expectation or consistent law or consistent rules in the international system. It's kind of like the Wild West without the cool hats. Don't worry, I'm getting there. It all feels very depressing, but just give me another minute. The third thing I want to speak about is the international system. And we saw this happen yesterday at the WEF. The international system has always been set up so that rogue nations can be economically, militarily, culturally, and socially pressured in order to fall in line and actually trade fairly, be sure that they're not attacking other nations, and they're doing the right things when it comes to human rights, right? The problem is the US is the only remaining superpower. We used to have the Soviet Union balancing that out. I'm not advocating for the Soviet Union. I am simply saying when you have one left remaining superpower and they have all of the control, all of the military, economic, and cultural control, we have a problem because who's holding them to account? Let me be clear. This would be true of any state in this position with this much power. Any state. Nobody's gone up against the United States in any way, shape, or form. And when the United States under Trump is now threatening to annex Greenland, everybody's freaking out and starting to have conversations about what are we supposed to do. It was what I told you should have done about a year ago. It's all about an alliance of middle powers. And let me be clear, it's not about taking down the United States. It's making the United States and this current administration understand that they don't have all the control, that if the next 20 countries allied themselves against the United States, as we started to see yesterday in the World Economic Forum, they won't be able to bully and negotiate individually with states and get everything they want. If we want power, we have to decide what is in our collective best interest to go up against this machine. If we don't, he will pick them off one by one by one. Greenland, Cuba, maybe Canada next, and I'm not into it.
Can't you see what America has done to us? To nature? To the very balance of the universe itself? You see, America ain't just a country. It's a virus, a cancer. It's a mindset that spreads and devours and leaves nothing alive behind it. And here's the thing. It built itself on 4 pillars: selfishness, greed, narcissism, competition. That's the real Constitution. That's the hidden religion of America. Selfishness says, look out for yourself, even if your neighbors are starving. Greed says, take more than you need, even if it leaves the earth bare. Narcissism says that your reflection is more important than the community beside you. And competition says you only win if someone else loses. That's the sickness. That's the American dream. And it's killing us. And the scam is they convinced you that this was life. They told you that you're just a little person with a little name. You're tied to a job title. You're locked into an area code. You even have a little ID and a stamped birth certificate. They told you play the game, work hard, climb the ladder, consume. And maybe someday you'll be somebody. But here's the thing. You were never meant to live like this. Because the truth is you aren't just some worker. You're not just some consumer. You're not just some number in their system. You are literally an infinitely expanding consciousness clothed in stardust. You are the universe breathing through itself, pretending to be different.
For ourselves. It's been all over, social media and mainstream media, in interviews, and and when you listen carefully, there's a pattern that's forming. This isn't just like random frustration. This is something deeper, slowly building up. First, a lot of people feel like the government isn't working anymore. It's not normal. We disagree on policy kind of way, but it is, in a way, it feels like chaotic, like constant fights, constant tensions, and decisions being forced instead of being discussed. And for many Americans, it feels like the system isn't being run for everyone. It's being run like a battlefield. And then there's something else that's making people a bit uneasy, and you can clearly tell from the how people speak, this growing feeling that the government is becoming more and more intrusive. When people start hearing that certain agencies are sharing more of their data, that personal information is being accessed across departments randomly, it triggers something deeper: the fear of constantly being watched by the government, and a fear of losing control over people's private lives. And whether that fear is like fully justified or not, it's really in the minds of many Americans right now. It is in their perceptions, and perceptions really matter. And then, of course, there's also this immigration crisis that's really caught fire since Donald Trump came to power. This is where America like kind of splits into two different countries. On one side, people are saying enforce the law, secure the border, be strict. But then we have other people saying, this is too extreme and this is too harsh. And the problem is there's no middle ground here. It's instead of solutions, all we see is continuous widening gap and division. But maybe the biggest shift isn't the anger, it is the doubt people are having now with this government. It's dangerous when people begin to doubt their own uh, government. More and more people are starting to ask quietly, is this actually making anything better? Trump is out there saying that the country is doing well, perfect, better than before. But it seems people are having a contrary, thought to it. And the question is dangerous, for any leader, because once people stop believing in the direction you're showing them or you're taking them, everything starts to crumble. And then there's something that's happening with the government itself. And many people have obviously noticed. You've got officials resigning and people walking away from their positions, some even stepping into politics just to oppose what's going on. Think about that for a second. These people who are inside the system are now saying, we can't be part of this anymore. And that, for me, really sends a very, strong message. And then finally, there's a bigger picture. How is America being seen, both at home and around the world? Like more like, what is the reputation of America out there? And a lot of Americans feel like things are not improving at all. That the country feels more divided, more tense, and things look certainly more uncertain. And when that feeling spreads, it becomes bigger than politics. It's a trust issue now growing. So when you put all of this together and many more that I have not even highlighted in this video, and what you've heard Americans generally been saying lately, it's not just about one policy and it's not about just one decision, per se. It's about a growing number of Americans looking at everything and saying, this doesn't feel right anymore. And the real question now is this just a phase? Is it just one phase that America is going through, or is this the beginning of something much bigger? Now that's a bigger question to really answer. And let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Leave me a comment and I'll be glad to know what you think about it. And if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, you can share it. And if you're new here, welcome, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.